What's up, guys? How's it going? Listen, I'm not sponsored. I'm not a corporate shill. I don't say what my corporate masters want me to say. I make no money on ad revenue. I could. I've been sent all the forms by Google to be in their little ad revenue program. I'm not in it. Okay. So when I tell you something, it's from my viewpoint, unfiltered. And what I've been talking about is these old guitars, these vintage guitars that you have this section of the guitar community who believes these guitars are better than the guitars you get nowadays. Better. Not that they're good, not that they're historic, not that they love them, but they're better. They sound better. And nothing that you make nowadays could come close. Okay. And my absolute number one poster boy for this theory is Mr. Tom Bukovac. Okay. Now, look, I'm not going to insult Tom. I'm not going to say anything bad about Tom. Tom does nothing but insult me. Okay. First of all, I didn't know who this guy is. Okay. He comes on my videos and comments and makes a video about me. And so I said, let me look into this guy. Okay. Well, I found out that Tom is an abhorrent human being. He's a piece of garbage. Okay. The comments he leaves are just disgusting. This is one of them. Wow, this video is terrible. My last video, right? What I did was I looped 30 different parts on top of each other that synced together and created a soundscape, right? Something Tom could never do. Trust me, Tom could never do this. Tom, at best, and there's nothing wrong with doing this. I do it too. You play a rhythm, you loop it, then you play over the top of it. I do that too. There's nothing wrong with that. But to insult somebody for creating a sonic landscape, like I did in this one, in this video, I got about 20 layers. To create a sonic landscape, to insult them for doing that, it's ridiculous, especially because Tom can't do it. Tom can't even do it. Anyway, the thing that blows my mind about this community, aka Ward, he's insulting you guys. That's all this guy does is insult people. Is how, after hearing something like this little intro piece, meaning my 30-layer guitar piece, my 30-layer, what do you call it, loop, that anyone could possibly give a flying F about what the guy that played it thinks about guitars. It truly amazes me. So, hey guys, somebody who can loop 30 different parts on top of each other that meet together melodically, meet together sonically, meet together rhythmically. They don't know anything about guitar. No, that's no. Okay, Tom. So your premise is you have to be able to play guitar according to you, how you think somebody should be playing really well, and then you can listen to them. Then you can listen to their advice, right, Tom? Okay. Well, I found somebody for you, Tom. I found somebody for you, buddy. His name's Jack Pearson. And here he is at your little venue, Third and Lindsay in Nashville, Tennessee. Now, first off, Tom, this guy can play better than you. He's probably been playing longer than you. He can play anything you can play. I can play anything you can play. Most people can, Tom. You're not that great. But this guy can play anything you can play. He's better than you. He's playing at your little venues. He's played in major acts. He's done everything. He's done anything you've ever done. He can do and does. And he's playing a Squier. He's playing a Squier Fender. And he will tell you he's doing it by choice. He thinks they're great guitars. Mm-hmm. Here he is on stage with another one. Now he's got a Squier Telly out there he's playing on. And he's got a Squier Strat he's playing on. And he plays these guitars. He picks these guitars out on purpose. He thinks they're great guitars. He loves them. And he tells you, buy one. They're great. $250. I got mine for $250. I bought one for my cousin. I bought two of them for $500. So there you go, Tom. See, and this is the problem with someone like Tom. Tom is the worst of the worst. He's ambulatory garbage. Okay, you know that bin in the back of like a Popeyes, where they throw all the grease in it. This is like a metal bin with one opening. They dump the grease in there. That's not Tom. What they do is they take a hose and they suck all the grease out, and that crud that's left at the bottom, that fried that garbage that's left at the bottom of the bin, that's Tom. The lowest of the low, just an absolute abomination of humanity, just a walking ambulatory garbage. Okay, and he espouses. He's got this '59 Stratocaster. I've been talking about the '59 Les Paul, but Tom has a '59 Strat now. He thinks it's so great. Tom, I had one of these when I was 19, dude. 20 years old, 19, 20 years, 19 or 20. I had one of these. I had a '59 Strat before you ever thought about getting one, dude. My grandma passed away, and she gave my mom a piece of land. And my mom asked us kids, well, you want this land? We're going to go up there? We said no. She sold it and gave us the money. So I had a little chunk of change in my pocket, and I'd always wanted a '59 Strat because Stevie Ray Vaughan played a '59 Strat. So I had to get one. So I bought one with the money. So when I was very young, played the guitar for 6 months. I tried to get a sound out of it. I couldn't do it. I couldn't get a sound out of it. I tried to, it was hard to play. It was difficult to play. I had 4 other guitars that played better than that, and they were cheap. They were not as expensive as this guitar. This guitar was 3 times more than any I'd ever paid for any guitar. And my other guitars were better than the '59 Strat. And I ended up selling it for a loss. So I lost money on it. So these vintage guitars, they're not always a great investment. They don't sound that good, and they don't look that good. Look at it. It's a piece of garbage. Look at it. So here's what we have. Here's the guitar, right? The paint job, right? The paint job is part of the guitar, the way it looks, the way it feels when you're playing it. In other words, how easy it plays, and how it sounds. These are the 3 main components of a guitar. So if someone is claiming, well, this guitar is so much better than any guitar, these vintage guitars are better than any guitar made nowadays, which, by the way, Jack Pearson doesn't agree with, Tom. He can play better than you. So we have the look. Now, look at the paint job on this guitar. I mean, I'm sorry, guys. It's ugly. It's not that good of a paint job. It's a horrible paint job. Okay. That's because back then they were using like auto paint on these things. And I'm not joking. They were using like paint that they sourced from, an auto parts store. It was cheap paint. It wasn't good paint. And then when they made it, they didn't have the modern day techniques they have. They didn't have they were just starting this kind of finish. So it's really what I call primitive. It's a primitive paint job. This is a modern day Stratocaster. Now, are you telling me this is not a better paint job than that? Oh my, I mean, come on, guys. Come on. The paint job does not look that good. It's not a good looking guitar. Okay. But once again, it's like that's what you want when you have these vintage guitars. See, the thing is, you can't bring out a vintage guitar that looks mint because somebody will mistake it for a modern day guitar. So you see these guys that are playing the guitars, they have to be beat up and old. So someone goes, oh, wow, that's an old guitar. It's beat up. This guy must be good. This guy must be really good. The guy even said that on a interview with what's the guy's name? Duke. I can't remember the guy's name. He's one of these guitar players. Had a vintage telly, and the interviewer goes, "Yeah, man, I see an old guitar, and I see you holding it, and it's beat up. You must be good." That's what the guy actually said. A younger kid, 26-year-old kid said that. Um, so anyway, we have the look. So the look of the old guitar is not as good. Their paint jobs aren't as good as modern day paint jobs. These are some for sale. Look at this. $42,000, $39,000, $46,000. That's actually a decent paint job. $39,000, $37,000. And see, this is another problem with these guitars. Go buy a car. You're going to buy a car. Here's a car that's 18 grand. Here's a car that's 36 grand. Here's a car that's 48 grand. Which one's better? You just assume the car that's 48 grand is better because it's a higher price. Now you just put that to guitars. When the most expensive guitar that you can buy new from Fender is, a custom shop $6,000 guitar, or an American Plus $2,500, $2,800 guitar, and you see a guitar that's $46,000, your brain is automatically going to go, well, that's got to be so much better. Like, it's better. It's $46,000. And the guys that are pricing it are also going, well, this guitar is way better, man. Yeah, it's a 59. They can't make them like they can't make them today like they did in 59, man. It's so much better. So if you want it, it's 50 grand. And I guarantee you, this guy paid $250, $300 for this guitar, and it sounds as good as any one of these strats. Guaranteed. 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 Like without even a hesitation. 59 strats don't sound that good, by the way. Like I said, I used to own one. They don't sound that good. So that's the look. Now we have the second component, which is how it plays, the feel of the guitar, right? Now, back then they had these, stainless steel saddle pieces. They had some kind of plastic nut. They had a flat fingerboard. There was no radius to the fingerboard. Believe it was just flat. They didn't know about people bending notes. There wasn't a lot of people bending notes in 59. There wasn't a lot of people ripping in 59. There was nobody doing two-hand tapping in 59. There was nobody doing complex ripping scales in 59. Nobody. Like literally nobody. Buddy Holly would stand there with a guitar. Peggy Sue, pretty, pretty. That's it. That's what you got. These guys were not ripping in 1959. Nobody was ripping in 1959. So as time went on, and these guys are bending notes, and the Fender changed the radius of the fretboard. They changed it so you could bend notes. They made it so it's easier to play. Fender improved their guitar so it's easier to play now than it was back then because nobody was ripping in 1959. So to make the guitar so people can play modern day style, which can be a ripping kind of faster style, they updated the guitar. They made the fretboard better. They make it better. So the playability of a modern day guitar is much better than a 59. Ask Jack Pearson, Tom. Don't take my word for it. Ask Jack. Now, the last thing is the sound, right? The sound is these three single coil pickups. So you have 3 single coil pickups. That's your sound, right? In this video here, Lindy Fralin is rebuilding an early Fender pickup, right? In other words, like these guys can say, well, you can't get that same sound because those pickups they made back then were so much better. Yeah, but how were they so much better? Well, they used, a certain type of magnet, Alnico 2 or an Alnico 4, whatever their magnet is. And they use a different wire. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. There's a guy first off, the magnet company that made the magnets, right? If you're really into it, the company that made the magnets still exists today. And guess what? They still have the notes of exactly what magnets, how they made them in the 50s. They have all their notes on how they did it. They have all the formulas. These are not lost. These are still there. They're in their company. They know what they made. And when you inquire with them and you become a serious buyer of their product, they will tell you what it is. They will tell you how they made it. They will tell you they can do that for you. There's a guy in Texas. His name's Klein Pickups. Man, this guy makes great pickups. He's not the only one. There's a lot of guys that do. But he orders from that company the specific amalgamation of metals that made these pickups. He literally went out of his way to find out the exact amalgamation of what it was and ordered the same magnets with the same amalgamation, the same metals from the same company that made these. So how is there so much better? It's not. The 59 is not. And in this pickup, if you look at and repair this pickup, this is all it is. It's a base plate made out of metal, the magnets, which I just talked about, and then a piece of fiberboard at the top of it. That's the fiberboard. Look at this. This guy wants $3,200 for this pickup. Look, it's all faded out. Why? What makes this pickup so great? There's nothing great about this pickup. There's nothing, outside of the fact of you just having an old 1950s guitar and going, well, I got an original pickup for it, like getting the original part for a car as opposed to a repro. It's like, well, it's an original part. And it's original to the guitar. It does bring the value up just in terms of originality, but not in terms of sound. It's not a better sounding pickup than any other pickup. And as a matter of fact, there are pickups made now that sound better than this. That dude, that Klein Pickups dude, can make a pickup that sounds better than this. This Lindy Fralin dude can make pickups that sound as good or better than this. As good or better than this. So you have the pickup, you have the base plate that's metal, you have the magnets, then you have the top part, and then you just put this on a winder and you wind copper wire around it. You're done. Then you put 2 wires on it to hook it up, but you're done. Like once you get the magnets in there on the base plate and you put the copper around it to create the electric field, you're done. You made the pickup. That's it. That's all that there is in a pickup. There's nothing magical about it. There's nothing special about it. There's nothing that you have to think in your mind, oh my God, in 59, they made these pickups so much bad. And then there's this argument by these guys. Well, the pickup, as it gets older, starts losing its magnet, its magnetic force, and so it sounds better. It's like, no, dude. No, dude. They have machines that run on magnets. They have complex scientific machines that use magnets. So they have to know what the field is coming off of it, how strong it is, how long it lasts, if it can maintain that field and whatever. They've done tests. These magnets don't lose any magnetism over a 100-year period, more than 1%. So over a 100-year period, you might lose 1% max of the magnetic force of a magnet. 1%. You think that's going to make so much difference? And you don't know how much. So it could lose 0%, 0%, and then the last 2 years it could lose 1%. You don't know how that's laid out over the years. You don't know how that 1%, how it dissipates in that 1%. But even if you did, even if you said, well, it lost 1% in the first 50 years of its existence, is 1% of a magnet losing its magnetic force really going to make that much difference? 1%? No, absolutely not. 0. So even if you want to come up with that thing that it loses its magnetic force, therefore it sounds better. No, it doesn't. It loses it about 1%. We know that scientifically, and that 1% ain't going to make that much difference. Okay, so there's nothing special about this guitar. There's nothing special about a 59. There's no special sound to it. It doesn't sound any better. Here's a modern day Stratocaster for sale on the Fender website for $600. This guitar right here is made in Indonesia. This guitar is made in Indonesia. And I guarantee you, without hesitation, that the production techniques used to make this guitar are better than Tom's 59. Guarantee you, the production technique used to make this guitar in Indonesia, not in America, in Indonesia, the production techniques used to cut this body, to cut this neck, to put this fingerboard on, to cut these holes, to rat out the body, the production techniques used to make this guitar in Indonesia are better than the production techniques used to make Tom's old 59. Guaranteed. Like, it's guaranteed. You look at the machines. It's guaranteed. They're using a CNC machine, one of the most complex modern day machines in terms of production, cutting something out. A CNC machine, a computer controlled machine to cut out the body, to cut out the neck, to cut off the fretboard, to put them together, to line them up, to do everything. And back then, you had a dude that was probably 3 beers deep from lunch, cutting out this body and using a pin router to cut the holes in it. It is not even comparable, dude. This is not even comparable. I mean, you couldn't even imagine a computer in 1959. You couldn't even imagine a computer what it was in 1959. So this guitar, there's nothing magic about it. There's nothing special about it. And the sound of a Stratocaster is pretty much like cola in a clear glass. This is why I made this picture with AI, because if you compare Coke to Pepsi, like, you might go, well, the Pepsi's sweeter. You might be able to pick it out. A lot of people can't, right? So you have 50% of the population can't even tell the difference between a Pepsi and a Coke in a blind test, right? So the same people couldn't tell this guitar sound from this guitar sound. Guaranteed they couldn't tell it. But some people can. They can go, well, the Pepsi's a little sweeter because they have a more refined palate. Okay, great. But now let's put RC Cola in there. Let's put 365 Cola in there. Let's put Shasta Cola in there. Let's put your local supermarket generic soda in there. Let's put John John soda in there. Put them all in a glass. Now you tell me which one's Coca-Cola. You can't do it. You can't do it. You can't pick. You couldn't do it if you tried. You couldn't do it. And it's the same thing with these strats. If you heard this strat and this strat, not this strat, this strat and this strat, right? And I picked you out another 8 different Stratocasters and recorded them, you couldn't pick out the 59 if you wanted to. Because a Stratocaster is a Stratocaster, alder body, maple neck, rosewood fingerboard, single coil pickups. That's what makes it a Stratocaster. There's nothing special about this Stratocaster. This Stratocaster sounds as good as this Stratocaster, if not better. This Stratocaster is made better than this Stratocaster from 59. So Tom's delusion about these guitars is the funniest thing in the world to me. All right, guys, that's it. I'll see you next time.